First, I would like to invite Dr. Saji Vijayan. He is a scientist, researcher, physician, and pharma R&D executive who has donned multiple roles in the field of medical science. He is a man of many credits. He is an inventor with over 50 patents across the world. He has published over 25 articles in medical journals. He is a scientist who led multiple clinical research and trials teams across the globe. He is a pharma R&D leader and strategist who got 100 plus pharmaceutical and biological products approved in US and European markets. He is a physician who specializes in diabetes and thyroid disorders. He is a recipient of Indian Medical Association Kerala Medical Journal's Best Research Paper Award. And he is also a recipient of RKK Tamban Memorial Gold Medal at All Kerala Conference for Obstetrics and Gynecology. So, Dr. Saji Vijayan, I will formally welcome you. Please share your wisdom.
Thanks a lot. Again, I don't think that long introduction was necessary. Most of you guys already know me. You've seen me at some point of time. And again, don't go by the numbers and stuff that has been told. Those are gimmicks. Doesn't matter. I'm here again as part of the talk. I didn't even prepare for the talk. I was told to talk at something which would inspire everyone. Honestly, I'm the one who's more inspired today by watching all this. Like the kids who actually had all the presentations there, they know I asked questions, a lot of questions. Because it really did encourage to have those questions, and it really did actually instill that inquisitive nature within me. And that's one of the reasons why I will always carry on something called passion. Like a passion for me doesn't just mean the literal meaning of the word passion, but also it stands for practice and adapt a sensible and sustainable, inquisitive and observing nature. And there's a reason for that, because again, each word has its own meaning, you know that. Together it makes a very good acronym, no doubt about it. The inquisitive nature that we have is going to be the key in future of what we can do or what we do in our life. Let me say something which I don't think many people understand. Even I took it late to understand that. We all actually are born creative. How many of you actually agree with it? How many of you do not agree with it? The ones who are raising are there, do you agree with it? So that's actually a very, again, you're right, it's a very big fact. Each and every person is born actually as a creative person. Science has proven through research that once kids reach the age of 10, around the 4th grade time, the frontal cortex takes charge. The frontal cortex is the one which defines how you actually talk to people, how you actually carry on your social behaviors and everything. It takes over. It becomes the bossy part of your brain. It defines how you actually move around. And your creative part actually is not shut down, but actually takes the back step there. One particular time when the frontal cortex also sleeps is when you sleep. That is why, even though you may not be creative in your day-to-day life, in your sleep, your dreams are always very creative. And this fact is important to understand because there's a famous talk by Tom Kelly from a company called IDEO. IDEO in Latin stands for ideation or for purpose, right? Tom Kelly talks about how if you actually really go back and think about it, towards the time when you wake up, when you actually hit the mute button, the alarm, you wake up, that's the time all these creative thoughts that you had in the mind flushes into your brain for a few seconds. And he has this advice to everyone like, when you hit the mute button, don't just get up and walk. Stay there for a while, process that thoughts, whatever you can get, scribble it down. Many times these thoughts are going to be the ones which is going to define later on in your life whenever you are actually in a stage where you have to come up with something creative. And this is a non-fact. And I don't know if you know this, in Greek mythology, they thought creative people actually are the blessed ones who are actually attracted or who are actually blessed by the goddess Muses. Muses is the goddess of creativity. They believe that it's only applicable to certain people. That's what they're taught. So Tom Kelly has a very interesting way of saying this is, when you wake up, don't hit the mute button, hit the muse button. So when you hit that, sit down there, scribble it down for a moment, because who knows what you scribble down today? Could something be created tomorrow? And that could be something which will be you'll be applying maybe in your work or in your day-to-day life. And when it comes to the creative part, again, I know we are calling this science and art fair. Honestly, I don't see them separate. I see them as part of the same thing. If you go back to our own culture, Indian culture, like go to temples and everything, you think about it. How do they decide? How do they decide that the pillar has to be here? Why is the shape like this? Why is that? And not just our temples, every big building, there will be pyramids and everything. There is science behind it. It's not just pure replica of art there. They actually had the science first, then they added some more things to it to make it look attractive. That's what I actually did. So for me, they both are the same thing, science and art. They are the same part of a bigger frame called creativity. So again, going back, I know we are talking a lot about creativity here. Is it possible that actually you all can train yourself to be creators? Or can you actually activate the creativity part of your brain? Now that was a question which actually bothered a JHU professor called Charles Lim. And he, in his TED talk, talks about how he actually brought in some jazz musicians. Jazz musicians are known for the impromptu music. And impromptu music doesn't happen immediately. You can't create it from the scratch. You have to just come out with it naturally, right? So what he did is he did the fractional MRI on these jazz musicians while they were performing. So when they were doing the usual music stuff which they already knew, there's nothing new that he saw on the MRI. But the moment they switched to the impromptu, he saw that, of course, the creative part of the brain gets activated, but more importantly, the self-critique part of the brain shuts off. But that's a very important message here. And I don't know if you have experienced, I have experienced it, many of my colleagues have experienced it, and many of the big speakers, not me, because I've experienced this, that when you actually go and speak on a podium, or you present something, and someone asks you, how do you go? For a moment, you don't know how to do it. And the reason for that, because when you actually present with that passion within you, you do shut off your self-critique, involuntary. It happens naturally. This is an important part for the kids also to remember, because learn how to shut off that self-critique. Every time you try to do something, there is something in your brain say that maybe you should do it. But just forget for a moment and go ahead, unless it is sensible. Remember, don't try to lit a match and see if it's going to burn the entire house down. So that's what the passion people have the word sensible there, right? So this is an important aspect to it. And the part I talked about the frontal cortex, I think that was done by, there's a famous book called Imagine, and it's called Imagine How Creativity Works. It's by Jonah Lehrer. He talks about how frontal cortex takes over and that actually limits your creativity. So I'm mostly quoting all these things that I have read and I have actually listened to. So do listen to Tom Kelly from IDEO. You're gonna learn a lot from those TED Talks. You also do listen to the TED Talk by Professor Lim from JHU and Jonah Lehrer. If parents can get the book for the kids, I think they should read it at some point of time. Or you can get Kindle too nowadays. Do read that. It does explain how creativity works. And the reason why you got to learn or read this is that remember always that you may go to college, you may complete 12th grade, you may do engineering, you may do an MBA, whatever the final degrees, everything you do, and you may think your learning is done. It's not. Learning is not about the degrees you get. Learning is not about which college you go into. Learning all depends upon your own internal question of actually continuously asking and finding out the answers to those. Because it never stops. It starts right from the bathroom. If the kid goes to the bathroom, if small kids go to the bathroom, have you ever noticed that their toothbrush is different from the adult toothbrush? It's a lot more fatter and thicker. Have you thought why? There has been research behind it. Earlier toothbrush, all toothbrush used to look the same, the adult toothbrush size. And there was a lot of research done behind it. Someone just quietly observed and see how these kids use this adult toothbrush. And they learn it's difficult for them to even hold because kids with the small hands, they cannot hold like this. So that is one of the reasons that toothbrush is so fat, became fat. When you see that, you should ask, why is toothbrush different from my mom and dad's? Keep on asking questions like that, right? And why do something, one other thing, which I found very interesting, and which actually introduced me to the world of IP, intellectual property, is that of Mickey Mouse. So Mickey Mouse is one of the most famous cartoon characters you all know. You know Disney owns and everything, right? Have you seen the replicas of Mickey Mouse anywhere? Has anyone else come up with similar Mickey Mouses? The reason it did not happen was the founders had this common sense, or maybe they're beyond common sense, to file a patent on Mickey Mouse. And it's not about the character. They filed a patent on ear size, on the nose size, on the facial features, everything. So it makes it difficult for any competitor to come up with a similar Mickey Mouse. And if you go the history, he didn't start with a mouse. He started with something else. He started with a rabbit, which looked awfully bad. And it turned out to be Mickey Mouse. So the reason I'm talking about the Mickey Mouse part here, that this intellectual property part is also important along with the creativity. So that's how the world works. That's what the frontal part of your brain, the frontal cortex should function. The creative part should come up with the creativities, the muse button, whichever way you find out, right, just scribble down. Then you use your frontal cortex to go and check the IP part. Is there a potential to convert this into intellectual property? If there's a potential there, then go ahead and file a patent. Nothing stopping. This is a world. USA is a world. It's a heaven for IP. You can file patents. There's so many options here to file patents. And again, do remember, just because you file a patent doesn't mean you're going to get awarded pretty soon. There will be patent officers who will be challenging you on this. There will be other people who will be challenging on this. The more novel, the more unique, and the more actually not so common inventions you come up with or ideas you come up with, that's how strong your IP will be. Again, I think that's all I have to say today. Kids, never stop asking questions. Never stop observing. Many times, many inventions that you have seen in the world actually came by just observing the nature. Many of the buildings that you have, the ancient structures we have built by just observing the nature and how it functions. And at the same time, if you think about anything what we have in the world right now, this is the era of AI, this is the era of machine learning. There's so much potential here to apply all those creativity that you have with this huge revolution that's undergoing right now. And you can actually make a lot of better things in the future. The society can actually benefit from all these thoughts. So with that, I think I cut short my unprepared speech. I hope you were not bored, and I hope the coming speakers will actually entertain you more than me. Thank you.